What's up, everybody? It's your girl Mio. Y que la que hay, mi gente, So, you guys tell me, does this look okay? This is my first live. I did a test a little bit ago, but this is going to be my official first missing persons case out of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So I want to start off by saying that I am taking a different turn on my page. Yes, I am. You will still see vlogs, you will still see my family, but on Tuesdays specifically, I will be concentrating on true crime. I will start off with, I'm not just concentrating on missing children or missing people. I'm going to be doing any kinds of crimes, murders, kidnappings, investigations, shootings, anything anything that has to do with crime in my county of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. I'm going to be covering it. I think that somebody needs to be doing it. I believe this light is a little too harsh, or is it just me? I don't know. But let me try and turn this light down a little bit, guys. Hold up. Where's the little thingy thing? There it is. Okay. I'm gonna turn it down just a bit. All right. It is still a little dark, but I mean, it is 12:30 in the morning. I am sitting in my bed with my webcam, and I got artificial lighting. So bear with me until, well, it gets better. But like I said, I am going to be concentrating on the town where I'm from, which is Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I also want to say that I not only am going to do just Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, but I am going to concentrate on surrounding areas and other cases from around the world that do interest me. I also will be doing a lot of Puerto Rico themed stuff that's going on out there. I just want to bring out my opinion. Maybe a look with fresh eyes or a different opinion will bring some light to something, or maybe it won't do shit and all I'm doing is just talking caca. But all I know is that I am going to keep the story alive of whoever I'm reporting on. I will always go back to it in case of new developments, in case there's more developments, more clues, something changes in the case. I will revisit the certain cases that I do go over. So today we are going to be talking about James Dupree Lewis Jr. He was a 4-year-old boy missing out of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and he went missing on July 28th, 1991, which is 29 years ago. I'm 30. I'm 31. That's a long time ago. I was like 2 when this happened. I was not living in Pennsylvania, though. I was living in California at the time. So I actually did not hear about this case until I did my research. And I wanted to start off with just children, and that's where I came upon James Dupree. But yeah, James was 4-year-old little boy. He was a black male. He was 3'3". He weighed about 60 pounds and had light brown hair and eyes. He was last seen wearing a white muscle shirt with black trim and blue and yellow shorts. And he was wearing white tube socks, but there was he wasn't wearing any shoes. Apparently, he was last seen between 7:50 in the morning and 8:30 in the morning on July 28th, according to his stepfather. Now, I want to start off by talking about the parents. James's mom's name is Deborah Johnson. Let me see. His mother's name is Deborah Johnson, and he was raised towards the beginning of his life by his mother only. She was a single parent. Her and his biological father split up. Um, he was brought up by his mother, who was single, and his dad wasn't in his life at all. And they were just living their normal, typical life. His mom would wake up in the mornings, take him to daycare. She would go to work. After work, go pick him up, go home, and just live your normal, regular life. Yet they weren't upper class. They weren't even middle class. They were poor. Um, and I'm assuming that they lived in the area where he went missing, around the area where he went missing, and you'll find out later why. I'll explain to you why. Um, but yeah, when about James was 3 years old, his mother had met who the man who was turned out to be his stepdad, who later became his stepdad, and they were talking for a while, and then she ends up pregnant. Um, so Deborah thought it would be a good idea to invite him to come live with her in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and his name was Maurice Marcel Martin. He was from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, and he agreed. Everything was fine. She brought her son around, and he met her son, and blah, 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 and they all got along, and she thought that this was a good idea. So he agreed, and he came to live with them. Sorry, guys, I have a strawberry here. So he moved in with them, from Coatesville to Lancaster County, and I can't really tell you how far Coatesville is. Maybe like about a 45-minute drive from Lancaster. So Maurice moved in. Everything was fine the first couple months. She was just recently pregnant, so she's going through her pregnancy symptoms and stuff like that, whatever. And she was still working full time. Maurice had found a job out here, and he was also working full time. So little James would go to daycare during the day. And after a while, things started changing between them, and Maurice started getting a little bit more aggressive and more bullying, I guess. He would actually abuse his pregnant girlfriend, which is scum. But then it went from just abusing his pregnant girlfriend to abusing his stepson. And hang on. And I guess Maurice's girlfriend, Deborah, James's mom, was scared of him. I mean, abusive person can be scary, and Maurice was or is or was, I guess at the time, a very built man. He was health conscious. He liked exercising. He was very athletic. He ran every day. So he had strength behind him. So that's how they met, and they lived the life of your typical abusive man who tries to control the home, and if things don't go my way, it's the highway, or I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, and poor little kid had to suffer from it. Now, it's not just a spanking here and there, or a harsh spanking here and there. Maurice was really very harshly abusive towards James. And this is all coming out of all coming out of James's mom's mouth. Now I want to get to the time when little James went missing. So it was July 28th, 1991, like I said, around 7:50 to 7:80 in the morning. What? 7:50 to 8:30 in the morning was when he was last seen. Maurice had Deborah had actually just recently gave birth, maybe like 2 months prior, and she had just recently went back to work at the time of James's disappearance. Maurice called his girlfriend at work and said, "Hey, would you like me to bring you some lunch?" And she said, "No, it's okay. I packed my lunch today. You don't have to bring me any lunch." That was the end of the conversation. And Maurice decided, "Oh, I'm going to go get her. I'm going to go bring her some lunch anyways." So he got his infant daughter, who was about 2 months old at the time, and he got um, James in the car, buckled them up, and he drove to the Giants on Reservoir Street in Lancaster. Now, I was saying earlier that they had to live around the area because usually when you go to the Giants food market or a Wise food market or a Stouffer's of Kissel Hill or a Musser's, it's because you live in that area. You live close to these grocery stores. These are local family owned grocery stores that you go to. It's not really a place that you drive to get to, like a long destination, like Walmart. A lot of people like literally drive from one little town to another. You know what I'm saying? Like in Lidditz, there's not a Walmart, so people drive to Lancaster, okay, Lidditz is a town in Lancaster. Lancaster is a county, but there's also a town in Lancaster called Lancaster. So people from Lidditz drive to Lancaster Township to go to the Walmarts there. There's two of them there, whereas in Lidditz, there's none. You see what I'm saying? Whereas if you go to like a Giants or a Walmart or a Giants or Stouffer's or Wise, they're everywhere in little locations. They are a little bit more expensive, but like I said, they are family owned grocery stores. And if you go there, it's because you usually live in that area. So he goes into the store and leaves James in the car. And again, another side note, please don't leave your kids in the car. Because if I would ever see anybody leave their kids in the car, if I see a kid in the car and it's the middle of summer, and I am one to sit around and just wait, because, like if we're at the gas station, maybe mom ran in real quick to go pay gas and run back out. You know what I mean? But I have waited and watched to see. And if like 10 minutes pass, then I'll take some action. But luckily, thank God, knock on wood, I've never had to deal with a situation like that. Knock on wood, never had to deal with a situation like that. So thank God. But I have been known to sit there and wait, to watch out. I'm one of those people that I watch out for my kids, your kids, his kids, their kids, everyone's kids. If your kids are around me, I'm watching out. You know what I mean? So he had left little James in the car because apparently he had fallen asleep. Um, so apparently he had fallen asleep in the car. So Maurice decided that it'd be a good idea to just let James continue sleeping in the car. He was just gonna go right in for a couple things to go get make some lunch for his girlfriend and bring it to work for her. When he left out of the car, there was a cart guy there. You know, one of those people that pushes the carts back to the front from the bay, pushes the carts or whatever. And the guy who was pushing the carts seen him. Now this was a Sunday morning, 8:30 in the morning. He was walking into the store. It's Sunday. There's a lot of churches where we're from, so a lot of people do go to church Sunday mornings. And if I don't know if it's like that in your town, but in our town, Sunday mornings is usually pretty dead out in the road. Like you'll see maybe one or two cars, and these are either people going to work or going to church. But other than that, it's usually pretty dead up until like 10 or 11 out on the streets in my town. And that's now in 2020. So back then it was probably even more. So there was like a handful of cars and a fire engine in the parking lot. So the cart guy noticed James get out of, or not James, he noticed Maurice get out of the car and go into the Walmart. He remembers this. So the cart guy then puts all the cars in the front, and he's sweeping the sidewalk. Then all of a sudden, Maurice comes back out with his daughter and no groceries and asks the cart guy before walking to his car if you've seen my son because he is missing. And the cart guy is kind of confused, like, dude, I just seen you walk in. You didn't even check your car to see if he's in the car because he mentioned, hey, have you seen my son? I left him in the car and now he's missing. And the cart guy's like, nah, bro, if I would have seen him, I would have said something, you know what I mean? But no, I haven't seen him. And you didn't even go check your car yet. You just walked out. So James, oh my gosh, James. So Maurice then walked back to the car to go check. And that's when he said, oh, he's missing. He's not in here, whatever. So he ran back into the Giants. And back in the day, that was the time before cell phones. They did have cell phones. I'm not going to lie. They did have cell phones, but they were like about this big. And like this wide. They look like a big old house phone. And all you could do was dial numbers, make a phone call. And I believe maybe the cords were finally disappearing on cell phones, because there was also these cell phones I remember my dad having. It was a battery pack, and you would literally pick up the phone and then hang it up. You know what I mean? And you had to carry a pack. I remember it was like brown, like yellowish brown, a very light yellow brown color. So he ran inside to call 911. The cops show up, and Maurice tells them that, he had left James in the car because he just was going to run inside and grab a couple groceries. And by the time he came outside, he noticed that James was not in the car anymore. So the first thing the cop asked him, like, okay, well, where are your groceries? And that's where he stumped. That's where he got stumped. He was like, oh, I forgot my wallet actually in the car. And I was going to go back to get my wallet out of the car. And I noticed that James wasn't in the car. So I'm like, I'm reading this article and I'm like, what? Like, then they start interviewing the people that are around. The cops interview the cart guy. There was actually a firefighter in the fire engine in the parking lot. He was on duty. I don't know why he was parked there at the parking lot. I don't know. But he was on duty. And he said he also didn't notice James around. Like, he didn't notice anybody get out of the car. And like I said, this was 8 o'clock in the morning. There was not a lot of people running around. So he would have seen it, especially when you're a first responder. Those are these things that you have to be alert. You have to be alert and aware of your surroundings, especially when you are a first responder, So after this, they interviewed the mother and Maurice. Now, the mom didn't have much to say. The cops noticed the mom didn't have much to say, and that she sort of seemed a little reserved and kind of like she was a little hesitant to talk, scared. She would always look at Maurice to see if it was okay to talk, or it was okay to say this or to say that, or if she wouldn't know the answer to something, she would finally they got them apart, and the cop, his name was Chafalan, Detective Chafalan. I don't remember, but I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, that's his name. He had got him apart, and he's like, look, I know that you guys are bullshitting me about something. I don't know what's going on. Do you know where your son is? Do you know what happened to your son? Why is Maurice lying? He said he went in there to buy you lunch, but he walked out without no lunch. Turns out he didn't even have money. So what was he gonna like? And she just would shrug her shoulders. She's like, I'm not sure. I was at work. I left my son. I kissed him goodbye in the morning, and I left, and blah, 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 whatever. So the cops wasn't really getting too much out of it. There was a search for about 71 days while they searched and investigated to see what happened to little James Dupree. The cops, like I said, did a lot of interviews with people that were around, neighbors, teachers, all kinds of stuff. And then they find out that there was 3 calls to the home on 3 separate occasions by 3 separate people to CPS. The first time they came out, they, assessed the scene. They noticed no bruises, marks. They didn't notice any neglect to the kids. The kids were well dressed. The house was clean. As a matter of fact, when they came were eating dinner when they knocked on the door, because they do surprise visits. They don't tell you when they're going to show up. They just show up. So, they seen all that. They did find like wines and beers in the refrigerator, but that ain't illegal. And none of them had any kind of charges that had to do with DUIs or alcohol or intoxication or public anything like that, that would render somebody suspicious as to, like, you always get in trouble with alcohol, you have so much alcohol in your fridge. It wasn't because of that. It's not illegal to have. And, but anyways, sorry, cops is on. Maybe I should turn that off next time. But anyways, they did notice that the detective couldn't get a lot out of the mother, even about the CPS coming over. She would just be like, "Oh, I don't know who called them, but they came and charges were dropped, or not charges, but they closed the case. They found it unsustainable or something like that." I forget the word that he used, or that she used, but anyways. And then the second time they came, they kept tabs on them a little bit. They did like 2 more visits after that, just to make sure that everything was okay. And then the third visit, they was kind of just the same as the first visit. They came in, they checked, they investigated, they looked around. The kids said that there was nothing wrong. The girlfriend said that there was nothing wrong, whatever. So they left. This last visit was 2 weeks or 2 months before little James went missing. The cops talked to neighbors, and the neighbors said that they would see Maurice like harshly reprimanding this little boy. He's only 4 years old, but he would yell at him like he's some kind of 16-year-old kid who just came home with a pregnant girlfriend. You know what I mean? Or they would see him like grip him up and pull on him really hard. And, there's certain ways that you just don't treat a child because it's very abusive towards them. He would see them like poking him in the face. One time they caught him smacking him in the head till he was like knocked over. Just abusive stuff that you really shouldn't do, especially out in public to somebody in front of people. You know what I'm saying? So they excuse me. Sorry, guys. So they also spoke to James's preschool teacher. Now it said preschool teacher, but he was only 4, and this was in the middle of July, and he was still seeing his preschool teacher. So I'm assuming preschool as in like daycare. There's a lot of daycares out there that do have year-round preschools. So maybe it was that. But her preschool teacher, James's preschool teacher, actually said to the police that Maurice had called her one day and said, "If James acts up, you have my full permission to hit him if you need to." I'll be goddamned. Somebody hit my kids that ain't me. Anyways, and y'all be goddamned if I give anybody permission to hit my kids. Like, ain't nobody in this motherfucking world got motherfucking permission to touch my motherfucking kids, is what I'm saying. Anyways, sorry guys, I have ADD. I'm really working on it, okay? Like, next time I promise I'll keep the TV off so I'm not distracted by it at all. So, then that's when the detective, he knew, like, all right, there's something going on with this dude. I need to investigate him, but I need to find out a way to get the mom to talk, because she knew that the mom knew more than what she was saying. So the detective kind of sent other cops around to keep an eye on the house, to make sure that they notice when Maurice leaves the house for long periods of times or whatever, and when would be a good time to show up. Maurice knew what the detective looked like and whatever, so he really couldn't stake out the place himself. So he was sending cops to just drive around and to see it if and when Maurice left. And the cop one day found Maurice leaving for work. That's when the detective Chafalant went and knocked on Deborah's door. As soon as she opened the door, he said to her, "Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I know that you know what's going on, and me and you need to talk. So invite me in so that we can have a private conversation." And so she invited him in. He came in, and the first thing he said to her was, "You wouldn't want this to happen to your daughter, would you?" And she started crying right there and then. He knew exactly what he was talking about. So that's when she started breaking down, and she's like, "I just don't know what to do. He's really abusive to us, and I'm scared. I just don't want him to hurt me too and my baby and blah blah blah, like blah. And he said to her, "Well, I can offer you protective custody. This seems like a really good case, but I need for it to be a slam dunk, I need your testimony, and I can offer you protective custody in exchange for your cooperation." And she said, "Bet," right there and then. She packed up the stuff that she needed to pack up. She got her baby's things. She got a couple clothes for herself. She got her baby's milk, all her information, and all her paperwork that she needed, and she split. And the detective put her, I have no idea where he put her, but I'm assuming they probably stuck her in a hotel room or something. I don't know what they do when someone's in protective custody, but he took her from there. Then that's when all hell broke loose. She started confessing, or not confessing, but she started opening up about the situation. She started saying how abusive he was, that first it started off with her and then he moved on to James, and that the abuses were just every day, all the time. He would just get beat up every time for stupid little things. You know what I mean? If he was eating a chocolate and instead of throwing away the paper, he would put it beside him or throw it on the floor like normal little 4-year-old boys that you got to remind 6 times to throw away the same damn piece of paper over and over and over again. He would beat the shit out of him. If he would ask for more to drink, he would beat the shit out of him. If he would ask him for seconds, he would beat the shit out of him. And she said, he would make James stand in the corner for hours on a crate, like stand on a crate barefooted. And I don't know if you've ever seen those milk crates. They have like those diamond shaped X's everywhere. After standing on them crates for hours and hours, that's gonna hurt your feet. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're a 4-year-old little boy, and Matt, that's sort of like solitary confinement. You know what I mean? Like, even though you're technically not alone, I don't know where in the house they would put him, but it's just him by himself up against the corner like this all day, all day, all day. Like, I put my 3-year-old and my 2-year-old in the corner sometimes, but my 3-year-old stays in the corner for 3 minutes and my 2-year-old stays in the corner for 2 minutes. And if I have to consistently do it all the time every day, then I have to do it. Sometimes I put them in the corner like 30 times in a day. You know what I mean? But it's 2-minute increments. The same with my son, 3-minute increments. So, anyways, he would hit him with switches. He would beat him with belts. One time she said that he kicked him so hard that he went about 4 feet up in the air. Like, you got to really kick somebody hard, especially a 60-pound boy. Kick him hard enough to send him airborne 4 feet. Poor little kid. One time she said that she had given him a sip of his soda and she told him, that's it. That's all you're going to get. And don't ask for more. You have juice. But he asked for more. And James got mad that he literally went to the kitchen, opened the whole soda can up, drunk about 1/4 of the can, and then filled it back up with hot sauce and then made him drink the entire can. Like, who does that? Like, what kind of, like, who does that? So, James then, he was wincing and crying and complaining about it being hot, and he would just laugh at him. That it was to the point that actually, Maurice started making Deborah abused her own son. And she said that she would have rather done it because she didn't want for him to inflict pain on her son, and she can actually control the severity, I guess, of the punishment. Either way, it's wrong, but I understand her mindset. When you're an abused, battered woman and you have been physically, mentally, and psychologically abused, I understand why these thinking and this way of thinking of the situation is okay. Or not okay, but makes it just a tiny bit better. Maybe if I hit him, I can hit him lighter and make it seem like it's hard, but I'm actually not really hitting him too hard. Whereas if I let Maurice hit him, he's going to beat the shit out of him and make his nose bleed. She also reported that one time when she was giving birth, that James stood with Maurice at home. And when she got home from the hospital, she noticed that there was red spots on the wall and on the ceiling in James's room. And when she asked him, "What is this?" Maurice told Deborah that little James had gotten a ketchup bottle out of the refrigerator and had dropped it on the floor on its bottom, and the ketchup exploded everywhere. Um, so, and she said that she sort of didn't believe that story because when she was cleaning the ketchup off the walls where she could reach, but she cleaned it off the walls where she could reach, she couldn't reach the ceiling, so she left it there. That she cleaned it and it didn't clean up. Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen like dried old ketchup that it sort of gets filmy and you can either kind of peel on it or it takes a while for it to scrub off. You know what I mean? You got to use something warm or something with, I don't know. I would use some like Windex to clean stuff up like that. That's like sticky and so that it wouldn't come off. You know what I mean? After a while, and then she peeled some of it off because she's like, I didn't think it was ketchup because when I smelled it, she said it didn't have that ketchupy smell, and I had just got home, so it would still have that scent, which I believe because one time I allowed my daughter to have a sleepover, and her friends all got McDonald's. I bought them one of those $12 boxes. So I was like, go ahead, you guys can go eat in your room. Just make sure you clean up and bring the trash down when you come down. And they did, but I guess somebody had dropped a ketchup packet or stepped on ketchup or something, that there was like a splatter of ketchup in her closet that, to be honest with you, I didn't see for almost like a month. So as I'm cleaning it up, I'm trying to figure out what the hell this is. I asked her, she's like, Mom, I really don't know what it is. But to me, it did look like ketchup. So I'm like, I think this is ketchup. And it came out sort of, I wiped some of it down, but then the rest that was chunky ripped right off. So, and when I smelled it, it still smelled like ketchup. Stale, but it still smelled like ketchup. So she said it didn't really have that like vinegary, ketchupy smell to it, but it didn't smell like anything she could recognize. It just was a smell. Didn't stink, it didn't whatever, but she just noticed this isn't a ketchup smell. So when the detective heard that, he was like, oh, okay, well, let me go investigate what this is. He went back to the house with her permission, looked up on the ceiling, and seen the spots that she was talking about. They took the evidence. They took it to the lab. A couple of days later, they found out that it was James's DNA. So something must have happened while she was in the hospital that he hit him hard enough to splatter his blood on the ceiling. Think about that. He's a 4-year-old boy. He was 4. I can't even, I can't imagine this. Like, so, excuse me. So, then they noticed, they got all the evidence they needed. She was going to testify against him. So they called in James and they asked him to tell him the story one more time. And when James repeated the same story, he said, look, James, we know what happened. we know that something happened to that little boy, and we know that he's missing, and we know that you used to abuse the heck out of them and your own wife while she was even pregnant. So you need to tell us what happened. And James always denied it. Till this day, he denies it. So they arrested him. They charged him with third-degree manslaughter because... Why they charged him with third-degree manslaughter? Because the detective and the prosecutor didn't believe that Maurice intentionally did anything to James. They don't think that Maurice intentionally intentionally meant to kill little James. And they jumped to the conclusion of him being dead. One, because he's 4 years old. Two, because nobody's seen anything of him or whatever. And the cart guy was a big key witness because he was out in the parking lot the entire time and he didn't see. And there was only a handful of cars. Plus, there was a firefighter there in his fire engine. So he didn't notice anybody, going into the car, grabbing a kid and walking away, or getting into another car and driving off. You know what I mean? There was only a handful of cars. It was a Sunday morning. It was early. So, these details are easily rememberable because, there wasn't much going on. So what the detective believes happened was that Maurice had, one of his abusive whatevers and had actually hurt James really bad, either that night or he woke up in the morning and noticed that James was not waking up. So then he did something with the body. So he believes that, because of the abuse, because of something that happened on the night before, on the 27th, he believes that that was the cause of his death. That he didn't intentionally want to kill him. You know what I mean? He just abused him and he killed him, which to me should have been capital murder, but so sorry guys, I'm just trying to find. All right. So after that, Maurice, like I said, he just kept denying it and 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 didn't have no excuse. You know what I'm saying? He just kept saying it wasn't me. Somebody kidnapped him. So yeah, they arrested him in October of 2001, charged him with manslaughter. Then they went to trial. When they went to trial, he pled not guilty. And the defense actually found two witnesses that apparently seen little James had seen little James 2 days after he was reported missing. Now, I don't know how credible these things are. They didn't find any evidence showing that this was correct, but I guess it didn't help the case anyways because, well, you'll find out. So, the prosecution laid out the clues, and Deborah testified to all of the abuse. She even had a couple pictures that her sister had taken. They found experts and about what can happen when somebody gets abused and hit in the head so many times, especially if you're 4 years old, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And then there was a defense's turn, and the defense says, yes, the prosecution is doing a very good job showing how Maurice is a short-tempered man, that he is not a good man, but not being a good man does not make you a murderer. Which, hey, it could be true, or that is true, but what else could it be? You know what I'm saying? Like, where is little James? There's blood on your ceiling that belongs to him. There's no way a 4-year-old's blood should be on the ceiling. None at all. Unless something terrible happened to him. I mean, women bleed for 7 days every single month. But you don't come into our house and look like a goddamn bloodbath. You know what I'm saying? So something terrible had to happen for that little boy to have freaking blood on the ceiling. Um, so the trial lasted a couple weeks. It was like 13 weeks or something like that. Um, no lies. It was like 10 weeks or something like that. Going back and forth, getting experts. Anyway, so the um once the whole trial was laid out, it was the jury's turn to do their judging, because that's their job, to judge. And so the jury was out for 10 hours. And in those 10 hours, they came out and read the verdict, and the verdict was guilty. Maurice was sentenced to 20 years in prison without the possibility of parole, which means he'd have to serve the entire 20 years. He actually got out in October of 2012. I did try looking him up, and I did try looking up for James's mother as well, but I kind of didn't really want to look too hard for James's mom, but I did look very deep for Maurice, and I couldn't even find his mugshot. Like, um, so he did his 20 years or whatever, and he just got out of prison. Now, James's mom moved out before the trial even started, moved out of the state before the trial even started, but she did come back to testify and to hear the verdict. And then ever since then, she's been out of Pennsylvania. Now, the body was never recovered. It was actually one of his cellmates and him were watching something about it on the TV while in jail. And he had, said to his cellmate, they're not even looking in the right place. So his cellmate then turned in this information for a little bit of a lighter sentence. I don't know if that panned out to anything. I don't know if the guy did get a lighter sentence, but apparently little James Dupree was dumped in the landfill. Now, the landfill here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania is sort of weird. It's weird. Like, to be honest with you, I don't know exactly where it's located. I don't know where our trash goes, but I do know that there's a dump site where you take your trash. If you don't pay for trash and you go and drop off your trash at the dump site, I remember this because I went with my dad once to the dump site long time ago. This was back in the 90s, and maybe like 1996 or something like that. What you had to do is, you go with your car, with your trash or whatever, and you pay like, I think it was like $2 or $3 at the time. You go in, you back up your car or your truck or whatever you have to the bay, and then you dump your trash into, there's like conveyor belts that come, and then you just dump your trash bags or whatever you have onto these conveyor belts, and then the conveyor belts take the trash somewhere. Where? I don't know, but it just goes. I don't really know where our landfill is around here. I should, right? But I don't. So he said that they're not even looking at the right landfill. And they turned in that information. But to this day, little James has never been found. And Maurice never opened his mouth about where he is. Now, my opinion on the mother, I believe she knows something happened. I believe that she knew right away when little James was gone. I believe that she suffered it, and it was Maurice's fault. I don't think that the mom had anything to do with his death at all. But I do believe that she knows as well. I don't know. It'd be a big deal for me to actually want to find my kid's body. I kind of feel like she knows where's it at. That's why she's not sweating it too much. Like, I need my babies. Like, I need my babies. I mean, not everybody has the same motherly instincts, but I don't know. Wouldn't you guys want your babies? whether they're dead or alive, you want to know where they're at, right? Like, I see a lot of cases of stuff like this happening where people get convicted of murder without a body, and the parents are still looking for the bodies. Like, I want my child's body, I will never rest until I find it. And she just ran away, which, I mean, I get it, bad memories and all, but I think she knows more than what she's saying. I think she knows exactly where he's at, whether it is in the landfill or not. um I think she knows exactly where he's at. And hopefully, if she does know where he's at, he's not in a landfill. I hope that maybe she found him like at least a nice proper burial, maybe. I don't know. But that's it for this case, guys. The little body has never been found. It's been 29 years. If you look at Lancaster then, and if you look at Lancaster now, it's not the same place. There's more buildings, roads been opened, schools been built, it's all kinds of buildings are up where fields used to be, train stations, airports. There's just been a lot of changes here in Lancaster since 1991. Like I said, it's 29 years. I mean, we have a whole minor league baseball team now, and it's a big thing. Um, buildings been built, buildings been knocked down, land has been preserved. So who knows where he could be at? He could be under a building somewhere, God forbid. Now we have a lot of rivers around here that actually rush, like really rushing water rivers. There's been, I think they call the Conestoga River Death River, because there's just been a lot of deaths. And that's actually going to be my next case for next week. I'll tell you at the end here. But yeah, it's a really sad story. And I'm glad that he was convicted and he had to serve his time. I really wish, though, that maybe one of the stipulations for him to even be granted parole would have been to turn in the body, but that's not how the law works. That's why Lady Liberty, or not Lady Liberty, Lady Justice uses the blindfold and then has the scales in her hand, because it can go one way or another. I mean, the Juice got acquitted, Trump got acquitted, and we all know they did it. So, yeah. If you guys know anything, do not hesitate to call the Lancaster City Police. You can call them anytime. You can even call 911. I actually want to read you a little clip from the Charlie Project. And if anybody knows, the Charlie Project is a place where they put up missing persons flyers. Let's see. James Dupree Lewis Jr. was missing since July 28th, 1991. From Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he is classified as an endangered missing child. He was male. He's black, 4 years old, 3'3", 60 pounds. He was wearing a white muscle shirt with black trim on the arms and neck, blue and yellow shorts, and tube tops with no shoes. He is from African American descent. In other words, we're just trying to find a good way to say that he's black. Brown hair, brown eyes, and James's nickname was Squirt, which was actually in the news. They would say, "Where is baby Squirt? Where's Squirt?" Details of the disappearance. James and mother Deborah A. Johnson and her live-in boyfriend of 1 year, Maurice Marcel Martin, reported him missing at 8:30 in the morning on July 28, 1991. Now, this is not absolutely true, because Deborah was at work and Maurice was the one that reported him missing from the Giants. Martin stated he left the child in the car while he went to the Giants food supermarket in the 300 block of North Reservoir Street in Lancaster. When he came out a few minutes later, James was gone. He had never been heard from again, and an extensive search showed up no sign of him. Authorities eventually determined that Martin's story about James's disappearance was untrue, and he was charged with criminal homicide in October of 1991. Johnson testified against Martin at his trial, stating he severely abused James on a regular basis, forcing him to stand in the corner for hours at a time and whipping him with various objects, and that he abused her as well. At one point, as a joke, he allegedly gave James a soda spiked with hot sauce for asking for more to drink. Neighbors had also saw Martin harshly disciplining the boy, kicking him and striking him with a tree branch. Numerous witnesses testified that James appeared terrified of Martin. Martin also contacted James's preschool teacher and told her that if he should hit Miss Martin also contacted James's preschool teacher and told her she should hit him if he misbehaved. Martin had been investigated for possible child abuse earlier in 1991, and the social workers made multiple unannounced visits to the household, but Johnson and Martin strenuously denied that there was any violence in the home, and both James and his baby sister appeared healthy, properly dressed, and well fed with no visible injuries. Child welfare authorities closed their file on the family 2 months before James disappeared. Martin's attorney admitted his client had abused James, but said that doesn't mean he was responsible for the child's disappearance. Two witnesses who testified for the defense said they saw James alive after he was reported missing. Okay, well, if you've seen James alive after he was reported missing, why didn't you say something? Like, this was a big deal in Lancaster. A big deal. So why didn't you say nothing? The jury decided that he had unintentionally killed James while abusing him, and he invented the abduction story to cover up his crime. He served 20 years in prison and was released in 2012. Most of Jason's family, including his mother, has moved away from the area, and his body has never been found. So if you guys have any information on this case, the only thing that's left to figure out is where James's body is. So really the only thing I can say is if anybody knows or heard of anybody knowing where James's body is, you can call the Lancaster County Police Department at 717-735-3300. Or you can call 911. You can also call Crime Stoppers. The number to that is 1-800-322-1913. Here is... So like I said, if you guys know anything, pretty sure the only thing that's left now is little skeleton. But if you guys know anything about him, where he's at, or what happened to him, maybe he was kidnapped and nobody's seen him, or maybe Maurice sold him, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something happened, but he's never been found or seen or heard of again. So hopefully we can give the mom some peace or something. The sister, maybe, who never got to grow up with her big brother. Yeah, so all right, guys, thanks for listening. Next week, actually, I am going to be going over the case of, I don't remember their names, but I know I have it right here in my head. A family who went boating, and their boat had, and their boat had capsized, and the mother and the daughter disappeared in the water and never been found since. The dad was able to make it to shore. But yeah, we will talk about that case later. There's a lot more coverage on that case, so there's a lot more clues and stuff for that one. But some people say the dad did it on purpose. Some people say it was an accident. But who knows? The Conestoga River is not forgiving. She is not a forgiving one. That's why you do not ever swim in the river. You stay on the edge. She is not one to be messed with. Or the Susquehanna River. We got some very violent rivers around here, and there's a lot of them here. That's why I stick to creeks and streams. You ain't gonna find me in the deep river, that's for sure. So, anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with my ranting, my ADD. Like, my mind goes that way sometimes. And I got like 500 channels. I'm like cable up in here for real. Like, different shit going off all the time. That's why I had to have my notes, pay attention, but anyways, guys, I'm really working on it. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for being here on my first channel. If you are my first true crime video, I will then see you guys on Tuesday for the other one that I just talked to you about. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. Let your friends know about my videos if they're into true crime. If you have any suggestions of anything that didn't have a lot of coverage in town, just let me know and I can look into it and give my 2 cents about it. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and I will see you at a later time. Bye!